one.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of PWT Multimedia Publishing with myself, Dortha Hise, and Carolina Billings as your hosts. And today we have the pleasure of having Cheri Petroni join us to speak about her book, The Nervous System Advantage. Cheri, first, welcome. And next, we're going to get into some questions.
Thank you. I am really excited to be here and finally launch this book. It's been a little bit of time in the coming, and I think well worth it.
Yes, awesome. So while we were backstage, I heard this is part of a series. Is that correct?
Yes, this is a first in a series. We probably have 24 ideas, and I'm sure it may or may not be that many in a series, but we have a lot of good ideas. Carolina and I have been brainstorming in between, and so I have a long list of things to choose from because the nervous system is so complex, yet so simple at the same time.
For sure.
Yeah, it is. We began developing and it was like gold, right? Like even literally the table of contents when we looked at it, especially since you and I, Dortha, specialize in microbooks, 10,000 words or less. And it just wasn't doing it justice. So definitely a series and definitely super excited. But Cheri, I want everyone to share with us why we're so excited that you're the person championing this, a bit of your background, in what makes you what was the big aha that the nervous system is the catalyst to it all?
So, well, part of the aha is the fact that I needed to figure that out for myself. And so my background from a educational perspective, I have a master's in education, early childhood background, and I happen to be a real geek. So when I take extra classes, I want early child development and I want to see this. And so I had quite a lot of psychology courses as my follow-up to teaching these little kids, which is kind of funny, but it made sense because I was interested in that. And so as I got older and I was no longer a teacher, I became an owner of a spa, which is now an integrative wellness center, by the way, because I keep growing and developing different things as I grow. And what I found in the spa at the time was that I was so stuck. I just couldn't move any further. I was there all day long, and a lot of other women can appreciate this, that no matter what I did, how many hours I worked, either somebody wouldn't come, even if they were the stellar, what seemed like independent practitioner, because I don't have people that are I guess you'd call employees. It's a different world in the spa most of the time. So bottom line was this. One day I was sitting at the computer and I just realized, like, wait, what are you doing? You're doing everything the wrong way. Like, not that I was doing things wrong, but I was looking at it incorrectly. So I started looking within, really. And so I had to look at what my feelings and all of those things, right? So the short answer is I started looking at my nervous system. But what I do is, and this is the funny part that has gotten me here, is I will take the courses as I start as a client. I take the courses and get the degrees, the certifications, whatever it is, so that then I can pass that on to my clients. So when I started out as a teacher and a Reiki master and an esthetician, it moved into being an integrative medicine practitioner and holistic nutrition counselor, along with all of the other emotional healing and neurological balancing and somatic work and everything. So I have probably a whole storage shed full of tools that I could use. And that's what's brought me to this point, that I need to share all of those things for people that can't come in to see me, because I can do things online and I can also share things in other ways, right? I don't have to be the person that's doing everything for them or with them, because I don't really do it for them. Otherwise, I have to get rid of them, which is another story.
And yes. You've done so much work with trauma. And I recently saw a quote that said, we experience the world not through our eyes, but through our traumas.
Absolutely. Yes, because that's how we see it.
And we always think trauma being like, like at the end of the spectrum, like major trauma, right? But really, we are the result of all the trauma we've accumulated through our lives, which, Dortha, you do so much work with that as well. And you're able to understand it and explain it better, with your program. But what role does trauma in the nervous system in our ability to make decisions? Because that's really where it begins, right?
Yes. And the thing is about trauma is really, it is just something that happened to you. And I don't mean just like it's not a big deal, because it could be a big deal. If it wasn't a big deal, it wouldn't keep us where we're at, right? So it's either something that happened to you or didn't happen for you. So somebody that was neglected, didn't get a hug, things like that. And then they wonder why they're acting in a certain way later on. And there's nobody there to tell them that there's a connection, which is what I started looking at. And so all of those things, which usually between, by the time you're 8 years old, they say everything you ever needed to learn, you learned by kindergarten, but some of them, there were things that you had to learn by kindergarten, because they shape how we see ourselves in the world. So with the nervous system, we can take it, start looking at things a little bit differently, and you can slowly start becoming aware, because the first thing is awareness, knowing something, oh, this is happening. Then you can shift it, do something else. Now, sometimes it's somatic work. Sometimes you can't, start doing, different exercises and things if you're in the store. I mean, but I've done a lot of times where I've done this hug like this, where I go in the bathroom in a store or wherever and just breathe for 5 minutes. And then,
Oh, wow.
I'm back to, yeah. And so there's so many small little things that people can do to get them back online. Now, if they're not aware of what's happening, that's the first step, is starting to notice that. And so we tell people, my favorite, non-favorite thing is for someone to tell me all the time, oh, just breathe. I'm not even like, I've got a lot of energy, right? So, oh, just breathe. Seems like you're really anxious. Well, no, I'm not. Thank you. And I know that sounds funny, but they don't know
until now. Thank you.
So it's just funny to me, because I know when I'm actually there, and no, I have a lot of energy that I have to expend every day. And that's just how I was built. But back to the other, yes, that awareness, and then starting to take a look at it and shifting, building some emotional resilience and taking action. And that's how we change our whole paradigm on how we see ourselves in the world, and begin to see how we can help other people once we've started helping ourselves.
Yeah.
Because
the fun thing about working with all of you guys, because I'm a coordinator. I'm not neither a clinician or a practitioner. More of a researcher, academic scholar thing. But the fun thing is that it's like working with ninjas, right? Because you guys know so much about, biology, physiology, psychology, medicine, all that I just realized. That's why I was laughing, because this is kind of like my go-to when I am relaxed and I'm paying attention and I am genuinely connecting, right? But I realize I'm also giving myself a hug, just like you just described, right? So it's like, okay, you now activated questions. I got questions now. Dortha, you have experienced it, probably because you're such a lovely person, and this usually happens to a lot of lovely people, that you are so ready to serve and so empathetic to really everyone. If just nice, like, yes, to the point of, is this lady for real? Yes, she is. But you've witnessed a lot of trauma. And how does that work, that a lot of stuff happens to a person? Because I'm the same way. I can go, my life is an I Love Lucy episode. Like, I can just go to pick up milk and stuff will happen, right? On the way there, on the way back, during what's going on? Like, are we attracting somehow all of these occurrences? And what role does this have with our nervous system?
Well, I mean, I think it goes exactly to what Cheri was just talking about, where we have that awareness once we're kind of in tune with it and understand. And I think I like to say embrace it, because my husband knows this well about me. Like, I can go to the restroom when we stop for gas somewhere. And when I come back, he's like, okay, what happened? Like, what's the story? Something happened. I know it did. I need to hear the details. So it's one of those things where, yes, maybe we attract it because, like we were talking about backstage before we started the show, we all bring our flair of weird, right? Like our own flavor of weird to the world. And I think that because we're mindful and we're, stepping out into the world with, I don't want to say with our shield down, but like there's a lovely essence to us, and we have a beautiful aura, and we have all the things, right, that attract that stuff to be seen. And some people can just like sort of have it off, like they have their blinders on and they're just out to get their milk. They're just going to the store and they're just doing their one little thing. We tend to lift our head up and we see things more, so that we're more like we're talking about the awareness. And I think that taps into the nervous system, again, to that piece of awareness, talking about, yes, we understand all of these things happen, crazy or otherwise. And I Love Lucy episodes or otherwise. And because of that awareness, it makes us maybe more, I don't want to use the word susceptible, but, more likely to witness things that are crazy. Like,
I love what you just said, because I even said it, so I had an instant reframe. See, that's how it works.
There you go.
That I said we attract,
but
really it could be that we're just aware, we're just seeing, like we're not necessarily attracting it, it's happening. And then there's the people who see it and the people who don't, right? And not that you don't see it because you're bad, or you just don't, especially if you have a lot going on in your head, you may not notice things that are out there. Now, Cheri, okay, so now we are a bit more conscious, a bit less autopilot, just by the nature of what we do, right? And I'm new to the world of energy and frequency, and in all of that, that was a natural extension from leadership and from the work that we do on the other side of the ledger. As a clinician and provider, right? So there's the empaths in the awakened ones, that we see things. Now, if you're a clinician and a provider and you don't do the work, right? Because you could be a clinician in a service provider and not be aware, right? You could be a teacher or a nurse, or, not necessarily a coach or a clinician practitioner. What could that possibly do to your nervous system to be constantly immersed in this world, right? By choice, and still be able to hold on to yourself in the process?
Well, I wasn't holding on to myself. So that was part of my awakening, I guess. It's been probably 10 years ago as I opened a larger facility. I was always independent and had my own business. But then when I started bringing in other people, that was a whole new dynamics I wasn't aware of. So what I really have found is that the people who are more affected by trauma and things of that nature is they're looking at this bigger picture, the umbrella up here, everything, and how everybody else is interacting, or what's going on in the scenario. And then we make choices based on what is the best choice, not necessarily what's the best choice for me, but what's the best choice for the bigger picture, especially if they've had some trauma over the years, which is what I learned as I started healing and doing some of these things. I was like, wait a minute. And then I started asking people, well, what do you see when like I started asking, what are you looking at? Well, I'm looking at how this is going to, what's in it for me, basically, what's in it for me. And I go here and I go here, and that's it. And I was like, wow. So I've started noticing that if you're looking at that whole scenario, there's probably something that maybe you had to look at. Now, I know that was part of my story as a child, which is why I picked up a whole lot of habits that were great as the head of household. I'm joking, but I was kind of took that on because I was worried about my little kids, which were my siblings. And as a result, I had to retrain myself to not do that for everybody else because they'll let me, right?
Yep.
And I was miserable. And so I had to actually learn how to look at what is okay, what is good for me, so that I shifted my perspective to also put me into the picture. Now, what's really neat is we have the empathy and sympathy and ability to also look at ourselves and be part of that. And that's the big paradigm shift for me, is sometimes I'm the one that gets to be first instead of everyone else, which before I was never that. And it all started with me really stepping back. It's funny because I'm in recovery, and step 11 is pause when agitated, which is really step back. Ooh, you just got a kick in the gut. What is actually going on here, and where is it in my body, and what can I do from here? And not go, oh yeah, I'll do that, and then kick myself for the next 3 days because I have no time to do it.
Wow. And you know what? You just touched on something really powerful, because Dortha and I, somehow it emerges. I don't know how it became, but then we kind of became each other's soundboards. Like, okay, this just happened. Is it weird for you too? It's kind of like an ongoing conversation. But what you two just touched on that I have never experienced, at least not in the way you guys have, is the early roles that you play in your family. And how that carries on into your ability to self-regulate and your trauma points and your active points. Now, in both your cases, you guys are trained practitioners, so that you know, it's not that you don't feel it, but you're able to self-regulate. You have the tools to be aware and to self-regulate. Mine was the opposite. So I came about 10 years after everybody else was already here, from my siblings and my cousins and everybody, right? So I always had like the role of the pet, like nothing was expected, right? Just like any minimal thing was celebrated. So if anything, it was the opposite, right? It's like I received trauma when I'm not being celebrated. It's like, hey, wait a minute. Like, what do you mean it's just good? This is like freaking great, right? And so no matter what, whether it's an extreme positive, because that has toxicity in it as well, or extreme negative, you're still carrying those experiences and frameworks from your childhood into your adulthood. And that's why, Cheri, I love, like, from the minute we met, the work that you do with childhood trauma in adults. And many of us think, oh, I don't have any trauma. Like, I'm a high functioning individual, right? Like, sit up, straighten up, go faster. It's
that's
like,
the
dude,
first
everything you're doing
to self, you're high functioning. What's going on? Because we should take moments where we're not.
Yeah.
Correct. So, and there's it's so interesting. Like, I'm surrounded by A-type, people, like, in my career and personal life. And I love them, and I probably love them because I feel safe around them, because I know that when the dragons ring the doorbell, or the robots, depending on who we're afraid of, they can, like, protect the castle, right? But their trauma is so overwhelming, right? Because high functioning is a form of trauma, or there's trauma built. There's a reason why you're high functioning. And it could have been because you had to protect yourself and those around you when you were little, right?
Well, your nervous system is going to continue. Even if you're in adulthood, people used to say, why are you so, like, tight? And I'm like, I'm not. I didn't know I was, right? Early on. And I look back and I think that has to be what I look like, because that's why my knees had, like, multiple meniscus tears in both knees, to where I couldn't walk, and had to convince them to give me surgery on both knees at once so I could walk again, because I was on a cane. And it was really, I tightened my legs so much over the decades that I could not now function without having all the little meniscus tears giving me pain so much that I had to have a cane.
And
Now
and
that's pretty severe.
that is when it transferred to your physiology with
Exactly,
myself.
because I didn't address it.
Like
Yeah.
I can live in the eye of the storm, and I actually thrive in the eye of the storm. That's, I don't know if that's being Hispanic or being, traumatized. Don't know. But what I find is that even if I am coping and handling and, just going at it, I'll wake up with a splitting headache because at night I've held my jaw so
Clenching.
tight. That's right. That like my ears hurt, my jaw hurt, and my dentist is like, "Would you stop it?" It's like, but we think we're okay, but our body and our nervous system says otherwise.
Yeah.
So this is so fascinating, Cheri. I am so grateful for the work and the effort and your openness to guidance. Right? Because it's not that I know better, or Dortha, who's our editorial director for all PWT Global PWT Publishing, it's not that we know better, it's that we're seeing the content with fresh eyes, right?
Absolutely.
So if it doesn't make sense to us, it's not going to make sense to other people as well, right? And you'd be surprised how, especially when working with someone very technical, like scientific and technical, how it takes a little while for them to understand that it's not about the information, it's about the integration, it's about how to relate to the topic in a way that, doesn't draw self-judgment or doesn't draw in those limiting beliefs or denial for that matter, right? You always present the material in such a way that, be it as a parent, be it as a peer, as a coworker or self, people are able to relate to the stories and be open to, this sounds familiar. So, Cheri, we're so looking forward to all your articles on all of our magazines, of course. And, you're one of our PWT mentor experts. And we continue, championing the awareness and the understanding of the nervous system as it relates to our everyday living and our everyday choices. So thank you so much. We look forward to it coming to everyone, and we'll put your information below for you to contact both, because you are also a somatic practitioner, Dortha, and we'll put all information with Dortha as it relates to technology as well, right? Because that's another, gamut. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Cheri, for writing such fabulous manuscript. And thank you, Dortha, for helping me with the publishing. And we look forward to another episode next time. Thanks so much. Take care.